that wreck was so bad, they thought I was dead. I remember waking up in the helicopter, and this dude's cut my brand new uniform off. Like, Design 500, like $2,500 uniform. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? This is Joey Payne, the Jersey Jet, and this is the Derek Pernesiglio Show.
Get out, drive you!
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Derek Pernesiglio Show, and oh boy, do we have a special guest joining us in the studio. He drove all the way down from New Jersey. He is the 2003 Northeastern Midget Association Rookie of the Year, two-time Gamblers Classic champion, a Niagara Falls champion, Supermodified driver extraordinaire, and holds about every record in ATQMRA. Joey Payne, welcome. It is great to have you here. I can't believe it.
It's great to be here. You know, we've been talking, we've known each other forever, and always talked about coming down here and just hanging out, and what a better way.
Yeah, bring the mic just a little bit closer to you. That's all. There you go. So what was it? 8-hour drive, 9-hour drive?
Nine and a half.
Okay.
Yep.
And where are you staying at? Where are you down here?
We're just like gypsies. We'll find a hotel.
So this is great. It's really cool to have you down here. You know, we had talked a bunch of times about you coming down and being here. So while you're here, what did you say? You were going to check out the truck race?
Yeah, we're going to go to the truck race tonight. Scott Zippadelli got me some passes, and we're going to go in there, hang out with him, and see what that's all about.
So did you just call him, or how did that all come about?
I just messaged him on Facebook and said, you know, we're coming to the track tomorrow night, and you know, you better win. And he's like, you're not serious. I'm like, yeah, we're coming. And he's like, call me, and got his passes. You
know, he ran a midget in NEMA for a short period of time. I forgot the car owner that he drove for. It wasn't that huge budget of a car, but your career has always been in open wheels. There's never been in anything with fenders, right?
No fenders.
Have you ever hopped in anything with a fender?
I did. I drove a late model at Flemington.
Really?
And one of my friends, I've known him forever, Joe Jarowitz, and he had to go to a wedding. His construction worker was getting married, and he was in the points battle at Flemington, and we sort of look alike. We're the same size. So he's like, hey.
Do you act alike too?
A little bit. So he's like, hey, you got to come practice the car. So I went to Flemington, practiced the car, and I was really fast.
Cool.
And he's like, okay, so like next Saturday, I'm going to give you my uniform, my helmet. You're going to put it on, and you're going to hang out in the truck. And you know, when it's time to race, go in the car, and they're going to think it's me. So everything was great. I mean, we were fast. I had to start in the back. I think I didn't qualify in the heat race. I ran the Consi, wound up second to Billy Hughes in the Consi.
Billy Hughes? Midget Billy Hughes?
Midget Billy Hughes.
He was in a late model?
He was in a late model.
What was he doing in a late model?
He owned one for a while, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and started the feature. I started like 24th. I start working my way up, and it was like halfway through the race. The guy alongside of me like ducks out, and there's a car sitting sideways right in the track. And I get on the brakes, and I'm on the brakes, and I hear one of the crew guys go, "Oh, there's a spin in turn 3, spin in 3," and I blasted this guy. I mean, I hit him so hard it bent the car in half, and now I'm in Joe's car, and I'm like, oh my god. So the crew the track crew comes over, and they're like, oh, you're good to go, start it up, pull away. Well, I started up, I go to pull away, the drive shaft was bent in a U, like the fuel cell was in the seat. That's how hard I hit this guy.
Really?
And
every wreck at Flemington's a big one. You know,
yeah.
Flemington was just wicked scary.
I was glad never to wreck the Super at Flemington.
Did you ever win a race at Flemington?
No.
You never won?
Never won a race at Flemington.
I give you a ton of credit because I ran 2 or 3 races at Flemington in my entire life, and it scared the shit out of me. It really did. I mean, I never thought I could hold my breath for 25 laps, especially on a 5/8 mile, but that was a wild play. And I wasn't even going that fast, you know. I was in the old man's Mazda, so that was it didn't have what the Gerties and all those had back in the day. Yeah. But Flemington was you had to have balls of solid rock to race for there.
It was really fast in the Super. Like we were like record speed there. I mean, like 15, I don't even remember, 15.2, 15.0, something like that.
Pearlie set, a 1 lap record on a 5/8 mile track at 154 miles an
Yeah,
hour or something
yeah.
like that.
It was something like that, yeah.
Or it was up over 150.
Yeah.
And I remember he rolled out. They put 4 gumballs on it, and he just went out. They pushed him off. That wing dropped, and it never came back
lifted.
up.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, it was cool. I hated to see that place go because there was some good racing there. I mean, we even raced the TQs there. I mean,
I know.
in a 1-inch frame, we're doing 130 miles an hour, and like we had to run such a high gear because it was so big.
Yeah.
Like when in the Rotax days, I'd bring a can of ether in the car with me just to get the thing up to speed. Like which you look back, I'm like,
What was I thinking?
stupid. Like, this can is bouncing between your legs, but under
Could
yellow,
roll- could
I'd
roll.
shoot the carburetors, and it would take off.
Really? Because it would start loading up so hard?
Yeah.
Really? I never ran there in a TQ, but my brother did in John Petradis' car.
Mm-hmm.
And he said one time they got the green, and he came off the back straightaway. And this is when, the TQs were getting 25 car fields, 24 car fields. And he said, I watched 2 wide go to 4 wide, go to 6 wide, go to 8 wide. And he's like, I backed off like, I'm not getting in the middle of this. So that was a while. This must have been like driving down the highway.
It was.
I mean, in a TQ.
It was like you said. It was like a 4-lane highway each side. I mean, you could run a 5/8 mile or a 3/4 mile if you ran out by the wall.
And you couldn't see going into the next corner. That was the worst part about it.
Yeah, well, even with the Super, I mean, you're laying down in the car, same as a TQ.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guardrails are up, like up here, and you couldn't see anything.
You couldn't see the wing going in the corner or nothing? At least we could in the midget.
The guy's in front, but not through, because Supers are low. The midget, the wings are a little bit higher.
Right, I got you.
In fact, when we ran the first time I ran Flemington in my dad's TQ, those bicycle flags are like 8 foot tall.
Yeah.
We put one on the back of the car.
I remember some guys would do that. I
Yeah.
was wondering, what the hell are they doing
It's
there?
the only way you could know where you were on the track.
Really?
Yeah.
God. Well, that's where you, as they say in our area, that's where you made your bones in the TQs, right?
Yeah.
That was it. Now, you didn't do go-karts or anything as a kid? Or?
I did. I did.
Oh, you did?
I had, 14 years old, I had my first go-kart. And the problem I had was, all the coys drove for my dad. So it was, they raced, and I got to race on Sundays when we didn't race on Saturday.
Okay.
So it was like maybe 5 or 6 times a year.
Okay.
And then the last year I raced go-karts, I raced a little bit more. And then, in New Jersey, at that time you had to be 18 to race on an oval track.
Because everything's DOT run.
Yep.
They didn't have go-kart. They didn't have the younger kid racing or anything in Jersey at the time? Or?
No.
Where'd you go run?
Well, we ran New Egypt, but it was they cut the track out. It was like corner. Each corner had like a chicane in it.
I remember
I could race there. We ran Cuddybackville. Ran some indoor stuff.
Okay.
Where I excelled. Like I won a couple indoor races with the go-kart, and it was.
Is that where you think you got your indoor savvy from? I mean, because you won Niagara Falls twice, Gamblers Classic twice, right?
Yep.
Did you win Trenton or Allentown?
No, AC. I won out in Columbus with a micro, Louis micro. I think what really trained me good for indoors was racing at Pine Brook.
That's what I was going to ask you. You did race at Pine Brook back in the day? You were what, just a teenager, right?
Yeah, 18. I started when I was 18, and
so you went right from the go-karts, maybe running 5 races a year.
Couple times, yeah.
To your dad's TQ.
My
Now,
dad.
your dad had owned TQs for years.
Forever, yeah.
Okay, even when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, he bought his first TQ when I was in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And then he built his own, and then from there on, just built more and more, and until I started racing, then I started building the cars.
Now, your dad was never a driver. He was just a car owner in the traditional sense of the word, right?
He drove one time.
Uh-oh.
And I guess somebody drove over him, and he wanted to kill him, and that was it. Dad was done.
For the folks that are watching or listening, a TQ stands for 3/4 midget, and nowadays they are a smaller version now essentially of a Supermodified. They used to be a smaller version of a midget, but now they kind of went to that lay down version where the legs are extended out in front of you. The motor is on the left side, with a lot of left side weight, which I think was the perfect training ground for Supermodifieds for someone like yourself. But anyway, we're gonna get to that. But to Pine Brook, like, is that where you ran your first TQ race?
No, my first TQ race, we went when I was 17. My dad took me up to Canada, and Johnny Coy Sr. was driving the car. And my first race, I started last. I got up to third at Barrie, Canada. I don't know where. No, it's Canada. I forget what town it was in. It must be Barrie. And I spun out. And Can-Am had a rule back then: one spin and you're done.
Oh, really?
So my night was cut short. And then the next day went to Cayuga. I started again 24th or 25th and wound up 4th that night. So
in your second race?
Second race.
Wound up 4th. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty impressive. It's not bad. Your old man must have been happy.
He was. And, I mean, I grew up around this stuff. And, when I first started racing, I mean, I got to replace my hero, Johnny Coy Sr. I mean, that guy was the best midget driver I've ever seen. Yeah. And another
6-time ARDC champion, right? He didn't win the NEMA championship, but he won a ton of NEMA races.
But look at all the 500 lap races he won. Back in the day of Islip.
At Islip,
yeah. I mean, no power steering, and you had to have arms of steel back then.
500 laps in a midget. Can you imagine? Like, I did a 50 lapper at Seekonk one time, and when I was climbing out of the car, I fell over. I was exhausted. My God. Yeah. I couldn't imagine 500 laps in a midget. What did they do at Pine Brook? What was a regular feature for them?
35 laps. We had at the end of the season, we had like a 75 lap race and a 100 lap race.
Okay. And also for the viewers and the listeners at home, Pine Brook was a 1/10 of a mile. 1/10 of a mile short track for TQ midget racing, and they ran TQs in those little micro stocks. They almost look like a go-kart in a way, but that was like the place to race because everybody, if you were a TQ racer, everybody went there for Saturday night. That was the place to be.
That was, and Mario Andretti started racing at Pine Brook.
Yeah,
my mother has 8mm video of Mario Andretti when he was 18 or 19.
Really?
The curl up in the front of the hair, and it's funny to see. It really is.
Holy cow! And so from there, it was years in the TQs. Your dad also owned midgets for a while. But you didn't drive the midget that often, did you?
Once in a while.
Once in a while. I remember that. And and then of course the first win came for you at Islip, which was the very last race for the track before they tore it down. How many races did you get in at Islip before you finally won one?
I think it was 2. I think that year we had the beginning of the season and the race in September. And I won it on the last lap coming down for the checkered.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was there that night. I was very young at the time.
Yeah.
I remember you winning. I remember Bob Park winning. But you were what, 18?
18.
18 years old. Who'd you beat for the...
Johnny Smith.
Johnny Smith. Okay. But you did eventually race with Old Man Coy, though, didn't you? He raced for a little while after that.
No,
right?
no. Really? I raced one time with him. He raced at Dorney Park for Kenny Walder. In a TQ, and I beat him that night, so that made me feel good.
He was unbelievable,
right? He was, that guy could drive a race car.
What was it about him?
You know how they say Dale Earnhardt could feel the air on the big tracks, and that guy, I think he could just feel what he wanted in a race car and knew what he needed, and if you gave it to him, he'd drive the shit out of it and win the race.
He also has a pretty good son in Joey Coy that you raced with mostly in your career. Joey was a little bit older than you, though, right?
Joey's a lot older than me, and Johnny Jr. He was, those guys are probably 15 years older than me.
Who do you think was better, Joey or Johnny?
I think Joey was, because Joey raced more than Johnny. Yeah. I mean, Johnny raced a lot also, but I think Joey ran a lot more than Johnny.
Right, and unfortunately we lost Johnny Jr. recently.
Last year.
We lost Old Man Coy a bunch of years back.
Long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. all of those years, though, what are some of the biggest memories that you've got, or some one of the funniest ones from doing the TQ stuff? Because those guys were characters, man. My God. And partiers, man.
So
we party.
So the best story I got is, I mean, I was young. I was probably maybe 12. My brother and sister were, 5 and 8 or whatever, and they all had big wheels.
Yeah.
And my basement was really big, and we had an oval track around the basement, like around all the tables and ping pong table and we were racing down. We used to race like Pine Brook and just whatever races we'd call it, and we'd have like all my friends racing.
Right.
So one time it was a holiday, and all the Coys were there, and Johnny Jr. and Joey were racing big wheels, and they were cheating
as adults,
and they were cheating. They were like running and then getting on them and rolling. Well, Johnny Jr. went right through our boiler.
Oh no!
Yeah, pieces went flying. That's one of the best childhood stories I have of the Coys.
That is funny. Oh my God!
Yeah.
So from there, though, the TQs, you kind of shifted around with a lot of different car owners over the years. I mean, the most notable one was Maddie.
Yeah,
Maddie Voller didn't work out too well.
Nah.
So, you know what? There were some guys that clicked with him and some guys that didn't.
When I was winning, 18 races and 19 races a year for him, it was fine.
Right.
But when we got the midget and the thing was a bag of shit,
oh,
I got blamed for it. I kept telling him the wing was no good because he had this little, like, just center part of the wing and 2 little side panels on it.
I remember that.
You'd go in a corner and this car would do what it wanted. And I kept telling him the wing's no good, the wing is no good, and he was like, "It's you, it's you, it's you." And like one of the last times I drove the car, we went to Hudson, and we got the car going good. I was fast. I go out in the feature, and the car is all over the place.
This was the Beast car.
The Beast car.
Right.
And I'm like, this car can't change that much from heat race to feature. So one of my friends, I was over by Gene Angelillo, and one of my friends came over and he goes, "Well, they changed all 4 shocks on the car when you were over talking to one of your friends." Like he'd do changes to the car and never tell me.
Oh.
So after that race, I pulled in the pits. I flew in the pits. Hudson's all sand and shit.
Gravel and rock.
I slid in, hit the brakes, dirt and dust all over the place. I took the steering wheel and threw it. I go, if your fat ass could drive this car, you would see how much of a piece of shit it is. And that was it. I got fired.
Throwing the steering wheel out the cage. My nephew has caught on to that really quick though. But but after that they put Noki in the car, and then Joey Payne. They had a ton of success.
Joey Coy. Noki wouldn't drive the car unless he put a wing on it.
Oh, really?
And that's when they had success.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, for a driver, what does that do for you? Does it piss you off? Does it get you aggravated? It's like, if you would have listened to me, we would have,
We were running up front with a bag of shit. Mm-hmm. If he would have listened to me, we would have won a lot of races with the midget. Mm-hmm. But when he fired me and hired Noki's like, "I'm not driving that car unless you put a wing on it." Mm-hmm. And then right then and there was instant success. Really? But you know what? I was like, "Told you so."
Right. I told you. Yeah. Well, the Maddie and Noki, they had a falling out too. And
Matt had a falling out with everybody.
Yeah, I know. And then Joey came along and he drove for a while, and they had success for a little bit too. But what do you think was the biggest break in your career? Because from what I remember was that night at Star when you were driving the midget. You'd won the midget race and then and got asked to hop in the Supermodified last minute or something. And tell me the whole story of how that went down.
Jeff Miller was definitely the biggest part of my career.
Supermodified car owner.
Supermodified and midget. Mm-hmm. So
that's right.
Bentley Warren was driving for him in '94, but it was only part-time because Bentley was still doing the ISMA stuff. Mm-hmm. So he needed a driver. Bobby Seymour puts him in touch with me. It's a one-shot deal. So we show up at Seekonk. I go out and practice. We're fast. We're good.
You'd never driven a Supermodified before.
No, this is the midget.
The midget.
I'm getting up to that.
Okay.
So I'm in the midget, And Brett Mowry, I go to pass Brett Mowry, and he chops me and bends like front wheel or tie rod or something, and I'm in the infield, and I get out of the car and I flip him off, and I'm like,
Joey Payne doing Joey Payne things.
I'm gonna get him, right? So I go in the pits, and Jeff and the whole crew, like they're a bunch of characters, and they said to me, "You got to ride full time. What you just did out there, we love that shit." So
really, flipping them off, and
just Jersey style.
My people.
So that season, we wound up winning, I think 3 or 4 midget races, or maybe three midget races, and then I was at work.
The Win Kelly Caruso Memorial was the big one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm at work in October, and he calls me up, and he's like, "Can you drive a Supermodified?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could drive a Super." I said it's an overgrown TQ on steroids.
But you never drove it before.
I never drove one.
Ah, you said, okay. Yeah, so sure, I'll drive it.
We go to Star, and Mike LaJoy, he had a Super at the time, and he came up with me, and it was a week after the Star Classic, and I go out for practice on the 200-lap tires, and I'm faster than what the guy qualified for, with the new tires.
Really? And what was it that they had driving for them?
It was it was Jim Lowry's car.
Okay.
And Jeff had bought it, but whatever deal was going on, he had to drive it at the Classic.
Okay.
So
the Star Classic.
The Star Classic. So I wound up waiting, and we ran the last race at Star. And I mean, back then they only had like 15 cars, 14 cars. I started last, and my first race I finished third.
Nice.
So it was good, and that's how my Super career started. I always got, you know how the racing is. Everybody wants every driver has to pay for tires and whatever. And I'm just a hard-working slob. I can never afford to put tires on cars, or
Right.
I mean, at that time I had a family.
Right. You're a truck driver by trade, right?
No, I'm a service manager right now.
Oh, service manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
But back then I was a welder. I was a mechanic on power tools. I always had to have shit jobs to be able to go race, because I raced all over the country. And it just I could never afford to do that. That's why I never drove on the modified tour, because those guys want $200,000 for sponsorship.
It's amazing.
You can't get money if you don't have a ride, and that's like, I've been through the ringer with a bunch of modified owners.
Yeah. And
unless you have that ride, you can't go to a sponsor and say, "Hey, I might have a ride if you'll sponsor me."
Right.
It's
a
hope and a prayer.
It's a hope and a prayer. Slide the mic a little more to your right. That's all. Just get a little bit closer.
All right.
Yeah, I know it's your first time on TV, but we're working with you.
I'm a rookie.
But what I think is very rare is Star became technically your home track, because you started racing the Super weekly there, right?
Yeah, for 4 years I ran Star, Lee on Friday nights and Star on Saturday nights, plus the ISMA tour.
Where'd you stay?
At Jeff Miller's house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would drive up from Jersey, race at Star, and then go race.
Go back to Chelmsford, stay overnight, get the car ready for the next day at Lee or at Star, and then
same car too.
Same
right?
car,
same engine, same everything.
Yep.
Wow. And you were getting paid to drive.
And I was getting paid to drive,
which is unheard of today, to race weekly. Like, here you are, a weekly racer, getting paid to race, which is, it doesn't happen anymore.
Not anymore.
It just it's amazing, right?
And I was fortunate enough. I mean, like I said, I always had to have crappy jobs to be able to take off. The job I worked for, it was 17 years I worked at this tool place. And when it came time to race, I'm like, "See ya, I'm going." You don't like it, fire me.
Right.
But I was lucky. I was good enough at my job, and I got enough work done, and they were fine with it. They let me go.
And this was really at the height of ISMA's popularity.
Heyday, yeah.
They were bringing 30 cars to the track and all of that. Could someone like you make a living racing a Super Modified on a Friday, Saturday night, and then on the ISMA tour?
It supplemented my income.
Okay.
A lot of it was travel money But I did wind up making a decent amount of money because we were, when I joined Jeff Miller, we gelled.
Right.
You talk about like Jeff Gordon, Ray Evernham and him, they were like magic together, and that's how Jeff and I were, and we won. We didn't win any championships with ISMA, but we were there.
Close, right?
I had the championship in the bag and got wrecked.
Oh no!
But we were up front every race we ran.
Right, and then Jeff decides to go with a 2-car team and puts Noki in the other car, right? And
that was after I left.
that was after you left?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys were teammates. Who was your teammate?
Randy Wickham was my teammate.
Oh, that's right. And Randy got killed at...
He got killed at Jennerstown.
No kidding. That's that kind of irks you to this day, right?
It was tough.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever been around like death that close to me.
Can you talk about what happened that day? Or does it still bother you?
No, I talk about it. I mean, he was a great kid. Definitely an up and comer, and he lived next town over from Jeff, and we had one car, and then we wound up getting another car, and he worked so many hours on the cars that Jeff was like, hey, we're gonna put Randy in it just to let him get his feet wet, and he won a lot of 350 races, and he got in the Supermodified, and he ran good. It just one of those deals, it was one of those deals like we were going to Jennerstown, and I've never seen rain like this before. Like the rain was coming up over the hood, the puddles. That's how much rain was coming down. We get to the track, it's raining again, and they're like, we're gonna pull the plug, and then all of a sudden you see like the sun coming up, and we went out, and it was a bizarre weekend because Ron Hornaday was there. He was doing. His son ran late models.
That's right. Yeah.
So Ron was at the track, and we had 2 cars. My car had problems, and I missed practice. So Chuck Hanley had come down for the drivers' meeting. He goes, Ron Hornaday's up there. He wants to drive a car. I'm like, send him down. He could drive mine because we had fixed it.
Oh, okay.
But I had no practice.
Oh, okay.
So he goes out. He comes over, and he's driving for Dale Earnhardt at the time. And he's like, we got to keep this quiet. I can't let Dale know because I'm not allowed to drive anything except his car.
Don't tell
his
the
truck
boss.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, "What are you, chicken shit to drive it?" And he looks at me and he's like, "Let me sit in this thing." So he sits in it, and he's like, well, "Where's the button to start it?" I go, I go, "There ain't no button to start it." I go, "You got to be push started." And he's like, "Well, how the hell you start this thing?" I'm like, all right, so I got pictures. I'm in the cockpit with him, and I'm like, all right, you gotta put this in gear. This is in gear, and then you gotta when you start rolling, make sure the oil pressure comes up. Then you turn the fuel on. I said, and then make sure your oil pressure's good, and then just hit the switch, and the thing will just start chugging, and step on the gas and pull away. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't know if I should do this, man. If Dale finds out, I'm like. He ain't gonna find out, and if he does, he's gonna say,
peer pressure.
"That's pretty damn cool. You got to drive one of them rockets."
Right, you're peer pressuring him to drive.
I did.
So,
and so he went out, and I think he was like 2/10 off a fast time.
Really?
And he came down pit road. He stopped, and you could see the smile under his helmet. He got out, and
he was probably like, "Wow!" Right?
He was like, "Holy shit, that thing's fast." Just he said the acceleration and the torque, just
right.
Crazy.
Because you guys are using, what is it, 467?
468.
468 cubic inch big block engines, right?
Yeah, on methanol and
1,000 horsepower.
16-to-1 compression. So, when the truck pushes you, it's like,
right.
Like you could feel it, like
right.
the compression just wanting to stop it.
So he gets out of the car and you can't practice, or you.
So the heat races were next. Mm-hmm. So I knew he went out in my car. I knew it was good because he went fast. So I go out in the heat race, and I think I was like second in the heat race or something. And Randy goes out in his heat race, and he's coming down the front stretch, and I think it was Mike Ordway blew a tire or something, and Randy somehow got on the wall. And I don't know if you've been to Jennerstown. Mm-hmm. The wall is like angled towards the racetrack. So the Super has so much offset. When he hit the wall and it went up the wall, it hung the right side tires on the wall and drove like I guess he was on the gas from like mid straightaway to the corner, but at Jennerstown, it had that opening for the first turn for the old ambulance, where the ambulance used to come across the track, and he hit that the far wall where the front stretch wall stopped, and then there was like the road, and then the corner started, and he hit that with the left side, and it just, it took his life. I mean, it was one of those deals where it was like just,
So he went in with the right side, hung on the wall,
and the left side, the engine was down. So when he hit the wall, it tore the whole left side of the car off.
He hit with the left side. What did he spin?
Yeah.
Did he?
No.
I'm trying to understand.
On two wheels.
Oh, he was on two wheels. I thought he was flat.
No, he was on the wall, two wheels, and then the wall ends.
All right.
So when it ended, it stayed on two wheels, and then there was another wall.
And it kind of crossed over and hit on the left side. No kidding.
Yeah, I knew it was bad. Like I was up on the trailer. Our trailer was kind of tall. Mm-hmm. I jumped off onto the ground from the top of the trailer, and I went over there, and I knew it was bad, and it's just one of those wrong time.
You actually ran up to the car?
I wasn't allowed to get to the car, but I went to like where the wall was, and Chuck Hanley, he's like, don't go over there.
Really?
So it was a shame, because great family. I mean, his brothers, Richard is his nephew's crew chief, and Eddie still races. They all carry the tradition on from the family, and
right.
It's great to see those guys when I get to see them. And
it's amazing that they're still racing, because a death or something like that, I honestly would think it would take me out of it completely.
Yeah. Well, Eddie was racing at Star that night. He found out at the track that his brother was killed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was terrible. So
that's a rough deal.
Yeah.
It's it's one of the things that we have seen, throughout the course of our lives.
Yeah.
But let's take a right turn.
Yeah,
away from
I'd like to get away
time.
from that.
Yeah, let's take a right turn away from negative town.
Yeah.
But getting back to it, so back up into the midgets. You had a really great career with Jeff Miller, and after that, it was kind of like bouncing around, though, right? From different stuff to try to find. And when did the whole bad boy thing come about? Because you had no problem with beating the shit out of some people at the track a few times, did you?
I've always had that in me. I guess it's like a Jersey thing. I don't know, but I recently found out that like I was kind of miserable in my life, and it sort of carried over to racing. Mm-hmm. So, but like I get labeled as this bad guy, hothead and temper, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But like when you see me go crazy, like I'm serious about my racing, and I don't drive like a jerk against people. Mm-hmm. When I get driven and like taken out and like that's passion that comes out.
Right.
Nobody can understand that. Mm-hmm. It might look like a hothead, but I work my ass off to get up front and to get taken out by somebody that doesn't really give a shit. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get a beat down.
Who got the worst one? Who got the worst beat down? Because I mean, I've seen you jump on the hoods of cars. I've seen you lean your head in the cage and just ream a guy out. And
I don't know who got the worst. I mean, I could tell you one story. Like
go ahead.
Oswego has this no spin rule. You can't do 360s. Like when you spin, you got to stop. Mm-hmm. If you do a 360, you get in trouble.
That's to keep the motor going, because the Supermodified.
Well, in the classic, okay. If you stop, we count laps.
Oh, okay.
So if you spin out and you stop, you're going a lap down, no matter what. I mean, very few people have. Like I've spun out once in a classic, and luckily it was right by the pit entrance from the track, and the push truck came up. I stopped with the back bumper towards the push truck. Mm-hmm. He came up, hit me, and away I went. I didn't lose a lap. But so getting back to this spin deal, I always said in a driver's meeting, because there's been guys that are known to do it, and you're doing 140 miles an hour, and you got this idiot doing 360s in front of you. You don't know where he's going.
Mm-hmm. Cloud of smoke.
So I'm driving for Pat and Terry Strong. I think it was like the 2009 or 10 Classic. I'm in third. I'm just riding. It's like 150 laps in, just riding. Greg Furlong passes me, and he hits Doug Didero and spins Doug. So now I'm like probably 4 car lengths behind. So I move up top, and he's down on the bottom of the track. Well, he starts doing 360s, and I'm up against the wall, and here he comes, boom, and just rips the whole left side of my car off. Now I'm like, this son of a bitch. I'm like, this is, and I got in trouble for it, but then nobody had the balls to throw me out. But so now I'm like enraged in the car. I'm like, this son of a bitch is doing 360s. We're not supposed to do them, and they're not going to do nothing to him because I never do anything to the guys doing 360s. So I'm like, screw this. I drive all the way around the track. He's sitting there. His car was perfect, not a scratch on it. I see him. I come around the corner and I boom right into him. I knock his nose.
Some Bowman Gray shit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I knocked his nose wing off. I'm like, if I can't race, you can't race. So,
and then you got out and
we started fighting on the track.
Ensued, right?
Yeah. I mean, we both had our helmets on, but the funny thing is, he was sitting there stopped, and I hit him, and he starts climbing out of the car. I'm like, this guy ain't getting the best of me. I was out of the car before he even got out, and we started swinging. And I mean, we had our helmets on. We had our helmets on, and everybody's like, "Oh, you had your helmets on. You're a sissy." Anybody that says that, I said, "Put my helmet on. Let me punch you. This is like a club hitting you.
Right?
It's gonna do damage."
Oh my God! So, over the years, there's so many funny different. Here's my other question. Why didn't you bring me any of Uncle Johnny's iced tea?
That's a funny story. Uncle Johnny's trying to find it. They stopped making.
What?
They stopped making. I forget what it is.
Crystal Light.
Seagram's iced tea mix or something. You can't find it up north.
You can't find a Seagram's iced tea mix.
Nope.
That is some good stuff.
That's some good stuff.
You gotta send me the recipe because I gotta.
I will.
Make it down
yeah, it's
here.
good. You gotta find it though.
Right. So for anyone that is listening or doesn't know, Joey's brother Johnny makes this kick-ass iced tea that is, it's an alcoholic beverage, but
for adults,
you don't know that it's an alcoholic beverage until
it kicks your ass.
Until you're laying on the ground. Exactly. Yeah, it's good stuff. And I had some up at Oswego that a couple of times with you guys, and Oswego has been like the new home for you, I guess you could say, or it was for a while.
It was. I started driving for Pat and Terry in 2008, I believe, or 2009. And I raced up there till 2015 steady. And Anthony was racing a quarter midget at Wall. So I'd drive up Saturday morning, race, have a couple beers after the race, and at midnight, truck back to Jersey and get home at like 4 o'clock in the morning and take him to Wall all day Sunday. That happened 4 or 5 years.
And then you had to get up and go to work on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you must have been dragging ass.
Dragging ass till Friday and then repeat. It just starts all over. But I wouldn't trade it in for the world. I mean.
Well, yeah, because Anthony's become a pretty stout race car driver himself, a NEMA champion too. You know, actually, you're both
first father son NEMA light champions.
Is that what that is? Father
first
and
ever.
son?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are what, the second in the club, right? It was Billy and Johnny Man, right?
Well, they were NEMA. I'm saying first NEMA and NEMA Light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I think Russ and Avery have that now. I think Avery won it last year.
Right.
But, so it was cool to be the first.
That was special for you guys. It was cool. I was there. I interviewed.
You did.
Yeah,
you did. And you didn't even call him Jeff Horn.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. God, you're still not gonna bust my chops about that. That was like 25.
That was a long time ago.
25 years ago. For those that are watching or listening, we were doing driver introductions a few years back at the NEMA races, and Joey was driving. Who were you driving for?
Gene's car.
Gene's car, exactly. Yeah. And you had been and Gene and Jeff Horn didn't like each other very much, but. I was just going down the list and I looked at the wrong name and I said, "Here's Jeff Horn," and you were like, "Jeff Horn?" Like, you're lucky I like you. You said. So that was a good one, but
and I never let you live it down. Huh?
Yeah, you got to drive for Gene Angelillo. I mean, in NEMA or in the Northeast, that's like getting to drive for Richard Childress or Hendrick Motorsports. That was the team.
That was the team, and a funny story. So I think it was, I don't remember if it was in the late '90s when Drew retired. Gene called me to drive the car, but I was driving for Jeff. and I was on top of the Supermodified world, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. So when everything went down and I wasn't driving for Jeff anymore, I bounced around from, Doug Beauvais, George Brothers, Howie Lane. I was driving, just picking up rides here and there. And in 03, Gene called me, and he's like, yeah, Russ is done. I go, don't give my ride away. And so I drove for Gene for 5 or 6 years, and it everybody calls him the king. And he still is the king. I mean, even though he's not with us anymore, he was the king of NEMA. Everybody set that bar to beat Gene.
It was, and God, what a great guy he was. I mean, he was like another grandfather to me. He knew me since I was little.
Yeah.
Just to give a description of Gene was the old Italian man from that old background of You Show Respect.
Owned a garbage truck company.
Yeah. We're not going to say, we won't go much farther
than
that.
Go any further.
He worked in sanitation. That's very true. And he owned midgets for many years, and Drew Finoro.
Lots of midgets.
Drew Finoro drove for him. Russ Stewart drove for him. He won, 14 or 15 NEMA championships or something like that as a car owner. And everybody wanted to drive for Gene because you knew you getting Gene stuff.
Best of the best.
You'd win. And you'd finally fulfilled that dream, right? Won the 2003 championship?
Won the 2003 championship. I think we're second, maybe 2 or 3 other times to Ben Seitz. And then Gene's last year, I wound up winning the championship for him as a car owner. I lost the championship by maybe 5 or 6 points or something. So
because the motor overheated, right? Or
at Thompson,
like
yeah. I was leading the race, running away with it. And that was... it was the year John Blewett got killed, and I was wearing John Blewett's uniform, and I was trying to do a tribute to him, and I'm running away with this race, and Thompson is known for the grills clogged with leaves, and I got halfway through the race, I'm running away with it, and I think it was maybe 10 laps to go. I looked down and the water temperature's pegged. I'm like, shit, and it was one of those deals. He's got $40,000 in this engine. I don't want to kill it,
Right.
So I pulled in, and we, he won the championship. I wound up second in points.
Unbelievable. That was a big thing with John. You guys were really good friends. Tad, tell me, what was your relationship like?
Well, I mean, we're just Jersey guys. He was a hardcore racer. I'm a hardcore racer, and we just hit it off. Even Jimmy. The three of us, we hit it off really good, and just really good friends, and it was really tough when John died. I had every race I would call either Jimmy or John and be like, hey, good luck, and that day, that Thursday at Thompson, I called John. I'm like, hey, good luck, blah blah blah, and I got a phone call 4:00 in the morning. I was on vacation down at the Jersey Shore, and my brother called me, and he's like, hey, I just talked to Crazy George. John got killed last night. And I was like, it was tough,
Yeah.
I mean, Joey was friends with Shelley, and Anthony had gotten to know Little John, and so they were racing quarter midgets together, and it just it hit same thing with Randy. It just hit close to home, and
How do you lose people that close to you and still continue to drive? I don't know how you do it, because I had when I was running the Pro 4, Harry Karafis got killed in front of me at Thompson, and that screwed me up for a while. I kind of took a break for a little bit, and I was in my early 20s. So how do you guys go back to driving it?
I've been doing this a long time, and up until Randy, it never hit that close. But there's something inside you that just shuts off, and you let it pass, and you go back to doing what you do, because that's what you do. And that's what that's what I did. I mean, in fact, John was driving for Eddie Partridge, and the North-South race at Concord, I got to drive John's car.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but in some way it's sort of a closure kind of deal,
Yeah, it helps you to find that peace. I know what you mean. going back to some of the fun times, though, we have had many fun times in the pit area at the NEMA races in the past. NEMA also became your home too. What does NEMA mean to you? I mean, there's so many great families in history in that club, and generational too, because you still have in the club racing today the Stores, the Seymours, the O'Briens, the Clevelands,
Kibbies,
my family.
Doug won his first race last year after
second race, not first.
But the first race in 30 something years or 40 something years. I mean, and I've always appreciated how hard his whole family works.
I know.
I mean, those guys, they are NEMA right now. I mean, even with your dad, I mean, like the old school NEMA guys are like true NEMA.
Right.
I mean.
Yeah, Doug Cleveland was a guy who works 40 hours a week. He was just one of those guys who, feels the race car out of his back pocket. Won his very first race in 1977
79?
or 9?
Yeah, I think
79 or 77, forgot which one it was, but he won his first race driving for Jim O'Brien. And then just last year, 45 years later, wins his second race, beating Jim O'Brien's son.
Yep.
So it was... sometimes you can't
make this shit up.
You can't script this shit any better, right?
Can't.
I know.
No.
The same thing with when my brother won his first race at Star that night. He beat Drew in a photo finish. And it wasn't by much.
No,
it was only by
I remember.
By a wheel or two.
But it just gel families,
right?
I mean.
Well, you drove for my old man too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
My old man.
He's a piece of work. They broke the mold on him.
My dad. We're trying to get him down here.
Yeah.
We're trying to get him down here to do the show.
I can imagine the stories.
I told him, I'll fly you down here. I will. What's your best story of my old man? Come on.
Something tells me you're going to need not 2 hours. You're going to need like a week to do your dad.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many. I mean, like the most probably generator stories from the motorhome. He used to walk around with the owner's manual of the generator, and like when I was driving, I don't know who I was driving for, Eddie Brault. I had a motorhome, and I was having problems with the generator, and he was always at my motorhome. Oh, try this, try that. I know from experience, and he'd come over with spare part. Here, I took a generator apart, and here, try this part.
He's got, and you know what? It doesn't surprise me that he had it with him because he carries all sorts of shit with him.
Yeah.
We get on him so bad. We call the trailer Sanford and Son because it's just shit everywhere. My brother has tried. God bless my brother. He really has tried so much to get my dad to just be a little organized. And my old man, no, take it. This is good. This is good. We got to hold on to this piece.
I think the funniest story, which it could have wound up a lot worse, was when he fired the midget up.
Oh, my brother, and
yeah.
He was almost killed.
He was almost killed.
Yeah, and
it's not funny, but it's a funny story.
It's a funny story. Yeah, we'll probably save it for when my dad comes. But the gist of it is, they were firing the midget up at the train station to just get some heat in the motor, and my old man built a new injection, and the injection hung up, and the throttle hung, and my brother tried pulling a Joey Chitwood over the east and westbound lines of the Long Island Railroad, and we ended up holding up the Long Island Railroad, and
it wasn't probably too good.
Dude, when the detective showed up, the first thing he said when he got out of the car was, "All right, where's the body?" That was the first, because apparently this doesn't end.
Nobody was supposed to survive that,
right?
Yeah.
Dude, I was there for it. I was young at the time, and the explosion, when that fence hit the third rail, and just boom, and it was scary, because
first off, Superman shit there.
Right. Well, first off, we're on the other side of the parking lot, and Pete, his helmet wasn't buckled, so his helmet come flying off in the wreck.
Yep.
So he went and launched over the fence like a ramp, man. And I remember it vividly, just watching the fence bend down, and he rode up of it, and he was going fast enough to clear the eastbound line. He was going slow enough to not touch the westbound line. But he dragged the fence with him, and when it touched the third rail, boom, and it exploded. And I remember trying to jump down to go get him, and my old man grabbed me by the scruff of the neck because the fence. I was trying to walk over the fence, and the fence was live. And he was just like, "No, get the fuck back!" He said, and you can hear the thing going, you know, and we're yelling, "Pete, you okay?" And we don't hear nothing. The car's steaming, and he jumps up. Look at my fucking car.
That's all you care about?
Yeah, I mean, because he didn't realize.
No, well, he didn't know.
The cops were coming up to him saying, "Hey, give me 6 numbers because you're the luckiest bastard here." You know, just
the shit we do,
right? Oh my God, really, the adventures that we got into. My old man was. He was white as a ghost for
I bet.
a while after that. You ever have any instances like that? Because when we went to go try to clear up the matter in court, they had 13 different instances where this happened up in Oswego where they were firing off Supermodifieds where something happened.
Yeah.
You know, he lost his license for a year for driving an unlicensed, unregistered motor vehicle. It didn't have a VIN number or anything. Oh,
yeah,
God.
you can't make this shit up.
You can't make this shit up.
I don't have any war stories like that. I mean,
so driving for my old man must have been interesting, though.
It was cool. I mean, you know, he's old school NEMA. It was good to say, hey, I drove Mazda Pete's car.
Yeah, and he just got elected, inducted into the NEMA Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So now
that's a big accomplishment.
He's immortalized.
Yeah.
So for you, what is your biggest one been so far?
I'd say racing at Stafford when I had to get helicoptered out of the track.
Oh, that big wreck.
In Gene's car. To this day I remember like maybe 1 or 2 little bits and pieces. I don't remember anything from that day.
Can you tell us what you remember?
I remember battling through the pack, coming through the pack, and I went into turn 1. Now with the midget, you're pretty much flat out at Stafford. You lift and you're right back in the throttle.
Right.
I remember like driving into one. I don't remember who I was trying to get around, but I remember the back of the car broke loose, and I corrected, and next thing I know, I'm in a helicopter.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. What did they say happened? Because I wasn't.
We know what happened.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that. I was actually living down south, but I had heard it.
So Winters used to have this lightweight aluminum axle for the midgets, and the threads broke right by the splines. So now every rear you get from Winters has a tag on it, and it says this rear axle will break.
Really?
That's the Joey Payne disclaimer.
Really? This rear axle will break.
Yep.
They haven't been able to figure out a way to machine it to give it some more strength.
They don't build a lightweight axle anymore. That's what it was. It was a lightweight axle.
So what did they tell you happened?
I guess where the spline and the threads meet was an undercut, and it just most people use knockers. We had a big bar to pull the wheels tight, and it could have just been stressed from pulling it tighter than a knocker.
Really?
But
so how did you hit? Did you hit with the back of the car, the front? What?
I hit on the left side. So you know how wide the Nerf bar and all that is on the midget? Well, that was pancaked up against the side of the frame. I mean, I hit so hard, the motor was laying on the frame. It broke the motor right out of the car.
Really?
The shocks broke off the car.
Your seat was bent too, right?
I was Randy LaJoie's crash test dummy. I called him up, I guess like maybe 3 or 4 days later, and I'm like, hey, I need a new seat. This seat's junk. He's like, junk? What'd you do? And I told him, I said, I hit the wall and I bent the shoulder like 9 inches out the side of the car. He's like, no fucking way. I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you. And what happened was the A pillar on the back of the frame, the shoulder supports were like right there. Well, when I hit the wall, it had so much force that I guess I'm like Superman, because my shoulder bent this webbed aluminum seat, which
Really?
I think he said it takes like 800 pounds of force to bend that right there. And I bent it right outside the car. Wow. My helmet hit the wall. My shoulder had like this big raspberry on it from, bruise under the skin.
Your head hit the wall?
Well, so my seat was one of the first midget seats from LaJoy for a winged car. So when we got this seat, on a LaJoy seat, the right side headrest is like that long, like a U. It had the same one on the left side. I go to get in the car. I'm like, I can't get in this car.
Right.
I couldn't squeeze in the car because it was too long on the left side. So I called him up. I'm like, what do we do? He goes, just cut it off. Just shorten it. Cut it off. You can't get in the car. You got to get in the car. And that's why my head came out of the car, because there was no left side headrest.
Oh, okay. What kind of damage did you suffer from that? Obviously concussion. Was there any type of reoccurring issues, headaches or anything?
I never ever got headaches. I do get headaches now. When I get them, they're like migraines, like really bad. But the biggest thing I had to deal with was like I'd be dizzy all the time. Like it messed up something in my head.
Even while you're driving?
No, not when I was driving.
Oh, okay.
But like at work, I tried to go to work afterwards, like 2 weeks later, and like I'd be under a truck, and I'd be on a creeper, and everything would start spinning, and I'd be like, you feel helpless at that point because you don't know where you are, you don't know what's going on. Like I had to have people like pull me on the creeper out from under the truck because I was like so disoriented and didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
So
no shit.
That wreck was so bad, Gene wanted to quit.
I heard, yeah.
I'm done.
I heard it scared a lot of people.
So Marilyn called me, and she's like, Gene, he don't want to buy another car. I'm like, no, we need to buy another car. Like, I'm not done. Like, I'm not going out this way. I want to race. And I called Gene, and he's like, you scared the shit out of me. I don't want to do this anymore. And, it was like, it was scary. I mean, I can remember back to, my ex-wife and kids were in the stands, and they had to go to the motorhome and pick up my belongings to bring to the hospital. Like, they thought I was dead. Like, the track crew and the fire department brought out tarps and covered like the crash scene.
No. Well, Connecticut's a DOT run track too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like, I don't remember anything. I remember waking up in the helicopter, and this dude's cutting my brand new uniform off, like Design 500, like $2,500 uniform. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? and he's like, buddy, we gotta get this off of you. I'm like, that's expensive. I can't afford another one. And he goes, look at your top. And like, I'm laying on this stretcher, I look up, and they just cut the living hell out of this uniform. Like, go ahead, cut it off.
Oh God.
So he's like, are you in pain? And which I smashed my knee on the U joint, because the U joint, it had a rack on the front axle, so the U joint was right inside the cockpit with me.
Right.
And for like 3 weeks, I had the indentation of the U joint on my knee. So I'm on the stretcher in the helicopter. He's like, are you in pain? I'm like, yeah. So they're like, all right, we're gonna give you a pill. I forget what they gave me, but
a happy pill.
A happy pill. The nurse is like, you're gonna be scratching your face in like 2 minutes. I'm like, I've had pills before, no problem. And then I remember this. I'm like,
cut to,
I'm like scratching. I'm like, and she's like, I told you so.
Oh God! So what were your injuries? What were the extent of your injuries?
I don't remember the stage numbers, but whatever the worst concussion is, I had that.
Oh really?
So and this wasn't my first concussion. It's like my, 7th or 8th. So now we're in the hospital. They put me in the tube, and the doctor comes in and reads my MRI or whatever, CAT scan, whatever they do. And she goes to my ex-wife, she goes, how many concussions has he had? And she's like, I don't know, 5, 6, I don't know. She goes, you want him to wind up like a hockey player? And I looked at her, I'm like, shut the hell up. like you're giving fuel to the fire to make me stop racing.
Right.
So I was like, I ain't listening to this lady. Right. That was the worst. It was a bad concussion, and I smashed my shoulder and my knee. But other than that, I was golden. But I don't remember. Right,
right.
So
oh my God.
It's funny because I was trying to go back to work, and I had these spins, but it didn't affect me in a race car.
Why not?
I don't know. I don't know. But like Gene,
When you would get out of the car in the pits, would you get them?
later on,
Really?
I'd be dizzy. I'd be dizzy like in the morning and at night.
Did you tell Gene?
No. But what I did was, so he didn't want to race. So now we need this car. We need a car. Like the car was junk. I mean, the frame was bent. Every piece on the car was junk.
Right.
So I come up with this idea. I was driving a TQ for Colin Martin. So I was like, if I go race this car and start winning again, he's going to see I'm good. He's going to buy another car.
Right.
So we go to Wall. I think it was like two or 3 weeks after my crash. I win.
Cool.
Next week, I go back to Wall. I win again. So
He
now,
sees it in the paper, isn't
so,
he?
I mean, talking to him, I'm
Right.
like, Gene, I'm back. Like, I'm back, you know.
Right.
So he starts looking for a car, and at the time, Beast was, like, backlogged on cars. And, like, he's searching all over the country trying to find a Beast. You know, just like now, you can't get a Beast because they don't build them.
Right.
So I think Tony Stewart was having a brand new Beast built. And I don't remember for who. It wasn't for him. It was when he had his midget team. But they let us take the car and, you know, like bumped us in line.
Mm-hmm.
We took his car and then he waited for...
Is that how you became friends with Tony Stewart?
No, I've known Tony since TQ days in
Really?
Niagara Falls. Yeah, he raced in Niagara Falls.
He ran TQs in Niagara Falls? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He drove for Larry Dwinger.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Dwinger and Larry Dwinger. He drove for them. And they started coming to indoors in Niagara Falls, and they had like Ohio cars. You know, they were like uprights and stuff, and you can't.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, those TQs are.
Yeah, you can't race a lay down car with one of those. So
Right.
Larry started buying some lay down cars, but so Tony and I, we raced together in Niagara Falls, and then when I drove for Gene in Florida, I think it was like 91. We went down to Florida with the Reader car and the Lindblad car. So
Okay.
So Drew's in the Lindblad car. I'm in the Reader car. The Lindblad car blows a head gasket. Drew's like, "Get out! I'm in that car." So I'm like, "All right, no problem. Just take your car. No big deal."
Right.
So we go back to the hotel, and the engine builder was with us, and Mike Kovacs, and he takes the head off the car, and he says, "I could fix this thing." We're like, "Okay." So he's like, "I need some copper wire." So we're in this hotel, and they're redoing these rooms, like in the back. So
I can see where this is going.
here goes Mark. Mark goes in this room with cutters, and he's like, "I'm gonna get us some copper wire." And he goes and he just, I don't know if he punched a hole through the wall or what, but he cuts this wire, comes back. Mike makes this ring for the head gasket, puts it on, and we're golden.
They just rob a little bit from the hotel, huh?
That's all. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So actually, you were, if I remember correctly, you were 1-2 in that race, right?
Well, we ran like 6 races down there.
Okay.
I was in the top 5 a couple times, but at Hialeah, we went home early. There was another week left. We were like we were in the top 5 in points, both of us. But he wanted to get back home, so we went to Hialeah. We went from what's that track on the west coast there?
Of Florida?
Florida. Punta Gorda. We ran Punta Gorda. We did really good there. Then we drove across Alligator Alley and went to Hialeah. And that's when Gene got all the races Gene won, all the cars Gene ever had. That was his first 1-2 finish.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And you were the one who got him his 100th win,
100th win, yeah.
That was cool. That was really something.
That was like one of those stories, like, you know.
I was in the booth calling the race, but go ahead, tell us about it.
Gene had lots of money. He didn't give a shit. You know, of course he didn't want to see his stuff blow up, but so this Volkswagen, you know, they're so big now that they're not reliable because they're at their max.
They're set on kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go out and practice, and we what did we do? We broke something in the cam. Something in the cam broke. So I sent somebody back to Gene's shop. We got parts. Phil DeMario fixed it. So in the feature, actually, I was warming the Super up. Phil's in my car, and he's like, "Yeah, it's running, but it doesn't feel good." So because that's when they used to start the supers and midgets together.
Right,
and
just
get
an
heat,
engine
just get
fire
heat.
session. Right.
So I come in, Phil's like, it's running, but I don't know how good it's going to be. I'm like, all right. So we go out, midget races first. We go out, I fire it up, and this thing is like banging and knocking and farting and just sounds like shit. And I go to Gene. I could see him. He was on a four-wheeler in the infield, and I'm like, the engine's no good. And he's like, drive it. So I
Just
started,
run it?
Just run it till it blows.
Just run it till it blows.
So I started dead last. I was like 25th and wound up passing Russ Stower in my team car for the win with like 5 laps to go.
I thought it was later than that in the race. I thought it was the white flag.
No, it was like 5 to go.
Was it? It was a big dive bomb too. I remember it looked like you didn't even lift.
I didn't lift because
dude, I thought you were not coming out the other end, man. Because Russ was running the Russ line, you know, and then you just made that big right to the bottom, and I thought, oh my God, he's gonna skate right up the track and into the wall, and that. You got it though. I remember it was great. That was a great memory for me because it was one of the last times I got to announce at Thompson, and it was a memorable finish. And it was Gene and you in Victory Lane, and Gene was always very special to me because he helped me through college too. When I was announcing races, he'd pull me aside and with the way Gene did, and he'd reach in his pocket and he'd peel off a couple of hundred, and here you go. He did a good job.
Good-hearted man. He really was.
He was.
I miss him and Mare. I really do.
Yeah, and now Drew's gone.
Now Drew. Yeah.
Oh, God bless Drew, man.
Yep.
He rarely ever got into an incident on the track.
No.
Right?
No,
he was like a surgeon on the racetrack. He really was, man. He would just cut his way through the field, and he was so clean and precise. And the years have gone on, but what is it that you like running the best? Is it the TQ, the midget, the Supermodified?
I love the Supermodified. It's a rocket on wheels.
Right.
I've been fortunate enough to drive for a bunch of people and win a bunch of races. I mean, Jeff Miller and I, we hit it off, and we won a bunch of races. Mm-hmm. And I've been successful after that, and now I drive for Don Penix, and he lives in California. I get to maintain the car and take it racing, and he flies in every once in a while and watches it race, and he's.
So you handle everything on the car, maintenance and all that.
Yeah.
Where's the car kept?
It's kept by me
in Jersey.
And it's Anthony helps me, my brother helps me. They say when you get divorced, you can count your true friends on one hand.
Yeah. And
I got rid of a couple of deadbeats that used to help me, and it's a new deal because those I always had a lot of help, and now I don't have a lot of help. So
is it frustrating, or is it more satisfying to know that you're just doing it your way?
It's satisfying because it's like 3 of us, and I got Jeff Page. He lives in Horseheads, New York, and he's a very dear friend of mine. He came on board, and he'll come down during the week and just start wrenching on the car, and it's a lot easier for me.
Right.
I wish he lived closer.
Yeah, I get it.
But,
and just like me, you got married recently.
I did. Remarried.
Yeah, same with me. I'm on wife number 2 too.
Yeah.
But what I thought was cool though was I went to the North-South shootout and saw you down there and heard you were racing, and I looked over and Kim is over there sizing up tires. She's doing pressures, taking notes, and which is cool. And now actually you have a stepdaughter that races too, right?
That races, yeah.
Okay. And she runs what? TQs?
TQ, yep.
Just like you did.
Just like I did and do. And there's times when all 4 of us are on the same track at the same time. You, your 2 sons, and my stepdaughter. Your stepdaughter. Yeah. Oh, my God. Yep. Does as a dad, knowing that you and your boys are out there and you're running together, does that stress you out or freak you out or anything? Or is it as soon as you belt in, it's another guy you got to beat? It's another guy. I mean, you do take notice. Like, we were at the Turkey Derby a couple of years ago now.
You're not going to throw a wheel at Anthony or Joey like you would someone else, though, right?
No, but like it's funny because like I'm sitting there. Anthony's ahead of me on the track. We're under yellow. and this guy's like fighting him for a position, and he's like hitting him and hitting him. Now this is my car that Anthony's driving. Like I own this thing, right? And this guy's like roughing him up, and I'm like, I had enough of this shit. I just pulled up on him and hit him. I had him on 2 wheels. So after the race, now I'm going out. I'm driving Rick Kluth's car in the modified race at Wall.
Whose car were you in? In the
I was
TQ? Was it Alan Mollett's?
I was in somebody else's car.
Oh, okay.
Someone I don't talk to anymore.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I get out of the car, and we had to stop at the scales because I finished. I don't know. That guy finished like 4th, I finished 5th, and Anthony finished 3rd or something. I get out of the car. This guy's in his car, and I go over, and he starts mouthing off to me like I did wrong because I hit him, and I just punched him in his head. And now Rick Kluth's like, you gotta drive my modified. Get over here. Don't start this shit. So I went out in the modified, and did that.
Don't get arrested before our night's done, right?
Yeah. At that point, I was driving 3 cars that weekend. So I was driving Mike Mongello's dirt car, Rick Kluth's modified, and the TQ.
You're running a dirt car on pavement, right? And you're winning with it too.
I mean, it's a sportsman car,
right?
And I was kicking the shit out of the big blocks, like literally, like pushing the big blocks down the straightaway. It's not a matter of horsepower. It's a matter of sticking it to the track.
At Wall,
yeah.
And for those that don't know what Wall is like, it's like a miniature Bristol, really. It's high speed, quarter-mile track. It's a quarter-mile,
third,
right?
third
it's
of
a
mile.
third.
Yeah.
And boy, you raced there with all your family, and even won you won your dad's memorial race too.
Twice now. Yeah.
That's huge.
It is.
What goes through your head, or I mean, what kind of emotion? I mean, must have been tears galore if I had won my old man's memorial race.
I did have to take an extra lap after the race, but what's funny is so I'm in this race. I'm driving Paul Dodorico's car. I'm 3rd. Mm-hmm. Like I came up front, but like Buddy Slode was going to win the race, no problem, right? All of a sudden, with like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 laps left, he blows something in the front end and hits the wall. So they get him off the track. Now Kyle Taraska is leading the race, and I'm 2nd, and like we're like, there was a red flag, and we're all like in line, and I could hear Kyle going, "Who's behind me? Who's behind me?" talking to the track guys, and like there's like 10 cars behind you. I don't know who's behind you. So
they don't know who you
are. So now I know he's like nervous who's behind him.
Right.
So
playing head games.
So we get started, and we got to start double file, and we get the green. He's driving the shit out of this car, and he's starting to push and slide up the track, and I'm like getting ready to set him up, and we go down the backstretch. He goes into 3, slides up, and I drive by him. I'm like, thanks, Dad. So I win the race, and it was very, very emotional. Definitely crying. Mm-hmm. I had to take an extra lap.
The whole family was there.
And it was really cool because my dad died during COVID, and there was no wake. He's like, my dad was like one of those old school guys. He goes, I don't want to wake. He goes, if any of these assholes don't want to come and see me when I'm alive, I don't give a shit if they come see me when I'm dead. We don't need a wake. So it was kind of closure for all of us.
Yeah. That's cool.
And
then you went back and did it again.
And then I went back and did it again last year.
Wow. Now, are they having the race this year?
It got rained out last week.
Oh,
so
no.
It's gonna be September now.
So you've won the race back to back, and you're trying to do it for the 3rd time in a row?
3rd time.
Is it an ATQMRA event?
First one was ATQMRA, and then Blue Metz's group. They had, on the same night, they both had a memorial race for my dad. I didn't race in Blue's race, but the next year, the ATQMRA didn't do it, and then Blue did it, so I raced with Blue's club.
Why are they having those separations? Because you've got ATQMRA, then there's that NEPA
there's like 3 or 4 different
and then
classes.
There's Blues, and if they all unify,
can't we all get along?
Right? Can't they all get along? You'd have 30 cars in a race. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's all over rules. This guy gets mad at that rule. Goes and starts a club, and this guy's pissed, and he goes starts a club, and it's just you got to get along. And I always said this. if you all don't get along, there's going to be like $20,000 flower planters on everybody's lawn because you ain't going to be able to race them anywhere.
Right. You can't run or do anything. And it's a lot of the problems that I think we're facing today.
It's not only the TQs, it's everybody.
Well, you're old school. I mean, you come from the days of getting paid to drive a race car or also getting a ride based on your talent. Mm-hmm. What is some of the biggest things that are changing in today's racing that is bothering the hell out of you or just gets on your nerves? Or
you don't need talent anymore. You need a big checkbook, and a lot of these drivers have daddy's big checkbook.
Right.
You know, I mean, it sucks because, you know, like guys like me and like Louis Ciccone and the Fenoros, the Coys, you had to earn what you got because you had to prove that you were good enough to do it. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you just get kids showing up at the track. I want to drive that car. Here you go. I want my kid to drive that car. You don't have an ounce of talent at all, but, you know, it's money.
Right. It's the
root of all evil today.
I get it. It's the pay to play, but your family has been involved with it for so long. Like every member of your family is involved in racing.
Yeah.
Your daughter does photography for racing.
Yeah.
We can find her at the IndyCar races and the ISMA race.
IMSA, yeah.
I keep screwing them up.
She's in Laguna Seca right now.
Doing photography.
Yeah, this weekend.
For teams.
She works for a marketing company.
Good for her.
Yeah, she loves it.
Good for her.
And I'm going to be a granddad.
You're going to... Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
She's having a baby?
She's having a baby in October, yeah.
Oh, my, I don't... You know what? This might be the only way you're going to soften up. You realize that, you know?
I don't know. If you ask Kim... I'm a pussycat sometimes. So, you know,
I bet.
That inner Joey Payne is still there.
Well, you know,
but it's harder to come out now.
Yeah, you wear your heart on your sleeve. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Real quick, just to change the subject, going back to the Tony Stewart thing. You'd known him for years. How did you guys put together the deal for driving for him indoors? And are you still going to drive for him indoors?
Hell yeah.
Okay,
So he's got 3 Munchkins. Midgets.
The Munchkins. The original ones,
well,
right?
the one I drive is a Mike Stryker Munchkin. It was a copy of Mike's.
But Fedorchuk has built a couple of them, right?
There's 3 original Munchkins. Mm-hmm. So Mike has the original. Tony owns the 97, which is Mike's car, and the 2, which is his. So about 4 years ago, Tony gets this idea. He wants to bring Rico Abreu in to run Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. So he buys Louis' old Munchkin, which is a Stryker car, and you know, Louis and I used to go out and help him do tires. Kim's a workhorse.
Right, I know.
She scrapes tires, and you know, Tony calls her his tire girl.
Right.
So
I've warned Tony. Like, Tony, if you're hanging out with Joey, it's just you're running with a bad crowd. He's gonna get you arrested.
So like, we were just his tire guys, you know, doing all the tire, and like Rico's car blew a rear, and it broke this, it broke that, and so he comes back the second year and had more problems, and I guess he decided he didn't want to come back and do it. So it was Thanksgiving. Tony was getting married, and I wished him happy Thanksgiving, and you know, good luck with the wedding, because he was getting married around that time. Mm-hmm. And he sends me a text. He's like, "You want to drive the Munchkin?" I said to Kim, I go, "Tony wants me to drive the Munchkin." And my reply to him was, "Fuck yeah." Like, who would say no? Right. So, you know, it's just, we get along really good. Mm-hmm. He's just one of those guys, you know, everybody thinks he's, you know, he's arrogant and he's an asshole and this and that.
Every interaction I've had with him has been great. Really.
If you knew what he did behind the scenes that nobody knows about,
right. Mm-hmm.
people would think a lot different of him.
No,
he's just a down-to-earth guy. And like he says, I put my pants on the same way you do.
Right.
You know, I mean, we get along good. I mean, we text each other a bunch of times.
Midget and sprint car guys. I sent him a message to see if he would come on the show. I haven't heard back from him yet, but
he's busy these days.
Oh my God, I would assume he's
kicking
pulled
ass
in every direction at once. And now that with the drag racing, I'm sure he's got no time. So I get it. We said, listen. When we call guests to come on the show, it's like fishing. We throw a shitload of lines in the water, and and hope how we get some bites. So that's the way it goes. But we have a good time doing it. We're getting close to the time of wrapping the show up. But are there any other like special memories or stories that you are happy or proud of over the years, or happy about? Obviously, I mean, your son.
I'm proud.
The next generation.
I'm very proud of my kids. My daughter, she's got her deal going. She's a fantastic photographer. She loves it, and she always texts me, "Dad, can you believe this is my job?"
Good for her.
And Joey's gave his shot at racing. He's got talent, but he doesn't do it enough to be consistent.
He works a lot.
He works a lot.
He's a union iron worker.
He was.
Like that?
Now he works at a bar. He gave up the iron worker stuff.
Really?
Yeah. He said, all summer long you're having heat strokes. In the winter you're freezing your ass off. He goes, the money's great, but I'm killing myself. Mm-hmm. So he does what he does.
So he races when he can.
Yeah, he races when he can.
I love the car. The
Lindblad Badger.
Lindblad Badger, the 67 on it.
Yeah, my dad's number.
Dude, I drove one of those Twin Eagle cars back in the day. I got to drive one of your family cars back in the day. It was the Hoosier Tire car.
Yeah,
I got to drive.
White and purple.
Man, I wish I would have gotten more time in that, because I got up to speed pretty quick in it. Yeah. And I wish I would have gotten a couple of more races in it, because I think that would have been able to do something, because the first time I ran it was at Riverside Park.
Right, I remember that.
And we couldn't get the thing to run all day. Yeah. And then finally they let us roll out like 10 minutes before the main event just to see if she'll fire up. And she fired up. They started me like dead last, 25th, and I drove that bitch all the way up to... I know I drove it up to 6th, but the scoring error put me and my brother like 8th or 9th, because I was on his ass coming to the line, And he chopped me a whole bunch of times, too. That's what sucked, because I stuck my nose underneath him going down into one. He chopped me going into one. I threw it up on the outside of him, and he ran me up the track. And then afterwards, he didn't know who it was. He just said, "I saw a wheel there." I was like, "You prick." So
I get bragging rights.
He didn't realize.
My kids, like, they always brag. They're gonna kick Dad's ass. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, like Anthony has beat me. I don't live it down for a long time, but Dad always comes out on top.
You got the wisdom, you got the laps, and everything else. That's
like, I've been doing this a long time, and there's no better feeling than watching your kids excel and do what you do and win races and championships, and it's just gratifying, and it makes your heart feel good when you see your kids doing so good. And like, I was going to retire. Like, I was done racing. I finished 3rd in the classic in, I don't know, 17, I think it was, and they didn't want me to retire. I was like, okay, no problem, I'll stay racing.
So what are you driving now?
Just a Supermodified, and I'll drive Alan Malt's TQ a couple times this year.
Which Supermodified are you gonna?
Don Pennick's car.
Okay, that's right.
It was a Muldoon car. Joey Hawksby put a front end on it and a rear end on it, and then it was a good car, but over the course of like 4 years, it's become obsolete. It's still a good classic car because it's a long run car, but to go on a regular Saturday night, we're off the pace, because everybody now has like a full front nose wing. I got 2 little nose wings, and aerodynamics are just so important nowadays. These cars are so sleek. They're cut and slim. They're trim.
It's an Indy car without being an Indy car.
It's an Indy car on steroids.
That's one of the things that really amazed me about the big difference between the ISMA Supermodifieds and the Oswego Supermodifieds, because the Oswego cars are way more sophisticated, I think. Don't get me wrong, they're both awesome race cars. They both have brute horsepower. Yeah. But they are just 2 completely type of different Supermodifieds, because the Oswego Supers almost look like a Formula One car with the nose up in the air and the drop wings. And you guys have 4 fuel tanks that you guys run in those cars too. And what I found interesting when you were telling me during like the classic,
the one I should have won, one of the ones I should have won.
What you guys are switching between all 4 tanks during the race to keep the balance of the car, right?
That's another thing. Like if your car's tight or it's loose, you can change fuel and make the car better. So you're concentrating on racing, and then you're like, oh, the car's a little tight. Maybe I'll dump some fuel out of the side cell and take some drive away, or or maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll do. So it's like a chess game inside the car.
You're trying to anticipate where it's going to go, and also you've got a. What was the other thing that the drivers were telling me? They pretty much close the fuel off under caution laps to save fuel, right?
Well,
but they'll make the mistake of going back to green and they forget to crack the fuel open, right?
Right. Well, that's to try and save fuel. I mean, some of these cars, you take like Mike Barnes last year. He was leading, running away with it, and ran out of fuel. Right. So you try and save as much fuel as you can. So under yellow,
look at Schulich.
Under yellow, I'll shut my fuel off like 3/8, and that thing, all of a sudden the thing will start like shutting, and then you feed it a little bit more, and like, all right, that's good there, So but it's all, like my car holds, I think, 58 gallons of fuel.
Wow.
And I'm one of the lucky ones. At the end of 200 laps, I usually have about 4 gallons left. Really? All these other guys run out.
Why is that?
Because they don't have enough capacity. The cars,
You just run extra fuel?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll fill up our rear fuel. Like, we'll pull a cell up and try and cheat and get like a half a gallon more in it, just to try and stuff as much in as you can.
Really?
We'll fill it up.
You'll grab the bladder and make space.
Yep. So like we'll fuel the car up, so the full fuel load run. We'll go out and we'll run 5 laps in the full fuel load run right before the race. We'll come in and same thing. We'll fill it up, and like a half hour later, pull the cap off, because the gravity. You can squeeze another half a gallon in that thing, and
really?
that's important, because
every bit counts.
when you're dealing with 200 laps and having only minimal fuel left. All it takes is an extra lap or two, and you're screwed.
Is the Oswego Classic the holy grail for you?
I want that.
Yeah.
I want that race bad. I've come close many times. A couple times I was leading, ran out of fuel. Finished second, third on fumes. I was driving for Howie Lane. I was running away with the car, running away with the race. No problem. Thought we were going to win it, and a $2 bolt broke in the front end.
Something. Always something.
When I drove the Graham car, we blew the track record apart, and we put new tires on for the race. Go out, and 2 laps into the race, I could feel the thing on the right rear. I'm like, man, this is gonna be bad. And that's why I ran away. I figured if I could lap as many cars as I can, and gonna have to make a pit stop for a tire, because the tire just took off, and it had like 1.5 inches extra stagger in it.
Wow.
And unfortunately, what had happened was we were having a problem. It was jumping out of gear. Yeah. So before the race, I said to Pat, give me some duct tape. I put duct tape on the T-handle for the shifter cable. So when I stopped for the pits, I couldn't get it out of gear, because the duct tape wouldn't let it come out of gear. So that's why I went a lap down under pit stop.
Oswego is such an awesome track.
I've
got
it.
Quite a few laps there myself in a midget. Excuse me. And Oswego is just awesome, because you're just going so fast there, and it's just, you're carrying so much speed. We're getting close to the end of the show, but what haven't we touched on? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about? I'm sure you could. We're thinking a bunch of.
You'd have to have
things.
me back.
I know.
I could sit here and talk for hours.
I know. There's so many things.
There's so many stories. I can't like pinpoint any. Yeah. I was told when I was coming here, I have to say that Anthony did beat me last, so he's still one up on me.
The last time he beat you. So that he twists that into you, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close, but where can we see you next? Where can we find you next? Obviously, where can we find you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, Joey Payne on Facebook, Twitter, same thing. Jersey, I think it's Jersey. I don't even know. I have them, but
at Jersey Jet.
At JerseyJet4. At JerseyJet4. Instagram is. I don't even know. Joey Payne. I don't know. I have these accounts. I'm on them all the time, but I don't know.
I know. We've seen you spouting off, talking about how much you hate traffic. And, I gotta sit in this shit again.
Well, you know, when you fall in love with somebody and they live like 88 miles away,
Yeah.
you move there, and I still work up in North Jersey, so.
Oh, okay. So you've got to go 88 miles every day
Each way.
to work.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but the things you do for love.
Yeah, I hear
You know, but you know, I know I'm going to race Pocono and a TQ in June.
Okay.
On the front stretch, they're doing a track,
Okay.
and hopefully my Supermodified's up at Joey Hawksby's right now. He's putting a new front clip on it, you know, making it what everybody else has, and hopefully he finishes it. I know it's like been there for 6 months now, and
he builds some beautiful stuff.
he builds. He's a fantastic fabricator, and I have all the confidence in the world that when I get this car back, I am going to win some more races.
Awesome. Well, when you're the next race that you win, you have to thank this show in Victory Lane. Okay, so you got to sit there and say, I want to thank Don Penix and also the Derek Pernesiglio Show for having me on. And
well, the Derek Pernesiglio Show needs to make stickers, and we could put them on the race car to get some exposure.
I could definitely do that. But before we go, one of the other things that I wanted to ask you, and we've been asking this to all of the guests, is longevity in the sport. What do you think it is that keeps someone in this sport, you know, for a long time? I mean, you've been around since the 70s. You're still racing today. What is that thing that helps us, a driver or a car owner, keep that longevity in the sport?
I feed off the fans. I mean, the fans are great. I mean, I got a lot of fans. I mean, you've seen me in action. I mean, the same people that are booing me, you know, for stomping somebody's hood or punching somebody in their head, the next week when I win, they're cheering, you know.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, family's another big thing, you know. I mean, all three of my kids, they've seen so much stuff from traveling with their parents all these years that the normal kid wouldn't get to see.
Right.
You know, and just friendships, and that's what keeps me going. I mean, I love what I do. I mean, I look back and I think, you know, if I had it to do all over again, maybe I would have went to school and started a trade that I can make a lot more money at.
Right.
You know, like I said, I had to have shit jobs to be able to take off to go racing. And
were you like one of these kids at a young age that wanted to go to NASCAR? Like, what was the goal for you? Was it IndyCar, NASCAR?
I always, you know, I'm one, and, you know, like Louis Ciccone says it too, it's like the East Coast was the forgotten side of the country. You know, that had a lot of top-notch drivers, but Saturday Night Thunder, Thursday Night Thunder, they pushed all those guys along, and you know, we didn't have TV on the East Coast.
It was a great time to be alive when Thursday Night Thunder and Saturday Night Thunder.
It was awesome.
You know, my old man's going to IRP this year with Mikey.
I heard. Yeah,
that is all of just years of watching Thursday Night Thunder, seeing those midgets, and him having those daydreams of, I want to see my car out there at IRP. I honestly think that's why he's going.
Yeah,
too. So,
that's awesome. Yep. I do have a funny Mikey story.
Oh God, here we go. This is my nephew, everyone. Yeah, this is my nephew Michael. He races midgets in NEMA. He ran quarter midgets. They
bought my car.
They
one
bought
of my
your
cars,
quarter midgets, and they won a lot with it, man.
Yeah, they were good cars.
Yep.
Anthony won a lot of races.
He won a USAC Grand National race in your old car. Yeah, it was great.
So we go to Waterford 2 years ago.
Oh boy.
So we go out for practice. I'm in a NEMA light. He's behind me on the track. So, you know, I've known this kid since he's been in diapers.
Right.
So I think it's more like Joey Payne's on the track. I got to pass this guy.
Right.
So, but we're in practice. So we get the green, and I go to step out and get up against the wall. Well, Mikey's left front's right here, and I'm like, what the fuck? You don't try and pass somebody, you know, you could destroy your car in warm-ups.
He's ballsy. I'll give it to him.
Yeah. So I come in, and he's in the car, and your brother's working on the car. I go over to Pete. I go, can I talk to him? Pete's like, uh-oh, what'd he do? I'm like, he didn't do anything wrong. I said, everything's good. I said, but I got to tell him something. And I told him, I said, I know you want to go fast, and I know you want to pass me. I said, but you don't do it in practice, because nobody expects somebody to be outside of them like that in practice. And he just looked up at me. Oh, okay. I love him to death.
He is funny, man.
He's a piece of work.
He got the throwing the steering wheel out of the cage from you, though, man. That and flipping someone off too. I've got it on video running a quarter midget race, and the guy's pounding on him, and out, down the straightaway, the old number one salute comes out, and I was just like, oh, he's learning too much.
That's my trademark.
I know.
I actually, Sublimited just did a new uniform and gloves for me.
Yeah.
And the middle finger has Payne written on it. And I said to him, I go, that's for the Payne salute. Can't make up. Can't be any better.
Dude, I couldn't. You were laughing so freaking hard when he come in that race and he was pissed that he threw the steering wheel out the front. You were walking over, just tears rolling out of your face.
I think we got it on video. You do. You have it on video. You sent it to me too. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you for coming on this show, for real. I mean, you drove, 8-10 hours to
nine and a half hours.
9.5 hours from New Jersey to come down.
That's like
here.
a trip around the block now.
But yeah, really, we appreciate it. The producers appreciate it too. It means a lot to us, and hopefully it puts the fire under other people to come on down here. We asked Jimmy Blewett to come down too.
Yeah.
He's
at Stafford this weekend.
I had a feeling. I told him to come ride down with you. Hopefully we'll get Jimmy on the show.
Yeah.
He did Dale's Junior show.
Yeah, I saw that.
Hopefully he'll give us a shot down here.
He's a good dude. He'll come down and make you laugh as much as I do.
I love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
Thank you
and
very much for coming
thank you
on
for
the
having
show.
me. And I'm just a happy dad, happy husband, and my kids. It took me all this time to figure out my kids are my life now. Mm-hmm. And I got 3 great kids, great stepkids, and a great wife behind me, and I'm loving life right now.
And they all win, which is great. So
that's right. Yep.
Way to go, man. Life is good.
Yep.
The Jersey Jet, Joey Payne, joins us on the Derek Pernesiglio Show. It was great to have him and share a lot of those stories. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you the next time. Bye.